Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Year of Being 70. I'm Lucy Macara, I'm in the UK and I'm with my childhood friend Lisette Schoutemaker, who is in Amsterdam. And we have been recording our weekly conversations in this podcast since the day I was 40, literally in October last year. Lisette is
Is it the 22nd of October, Lucy?
22nd of October, and you are
Okay, so
exactly
that's 9 months ago.
yes, and is it 22nd today? Maybe it is. And you are exactly a month older than me. So you're on the 20th, so you were 70 on the 22nd of September. And here we are, still talking on a weekly basis, 9 months later, as you say. Goodness me.
And I hope to be 71 in 2 months' time. My goodness, 71 sounds so much older than 70.
Doesn't it? I mean, 70 is like that sort of that kind of landmark, and you can feel, proud of having got to it. But when you kind of get into the into the numbers within it, it starts to, I feel sure it's going to speed up rather quickly. I don't know. But yes, it's interesting. So what are we going to talk about today?
So I wonder, do you do what I do and kind of compare yourself to your parents? Um, because I go like, oh, I'm turning 71. What was my mother like? What do I remember of my mother when she was 71 or my father when she was 71? But your father did not reach the age. Did your father reach the age of 71? Oh, he did.
Yes, no, he was 86 when he died, but he was
Oh,
20 years older than my mother. So he was born in 1908. So he died in 1995. And he was 86. So he had a very decent length of
yeah.
life, really. But when he was 70, gosh, I can't remember what the thing about my
Well,
father.
it's a long time ago when he was 70, so that is 1978.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I remember his 70th birthday party. But my father was sort of like always old in a way. So he was in his 40s when I was born, but he was very set in his ways. He always wore, for example, a three-piece suit. Always, almost even on the beach, he would almost wear a three-piece.
I remember that.
And he did the same, he had routines and everything he stuck to. And I'm not sure how easy it is to kind of discriminate between the decades or the years of his life. I mean, he did get what did happen to him was that when he was in his mid 70s, he must have been 74, I think, he went blind. He had a pancreatic leak, which he was in hospital for a long time. We all thought he was going to die then. It was, a major emergency, but he had surgery and he was eventually recovered and came out. But what had happened was that the pancreatic juices had got into his eyes and they ended up destroying his retinas. So he slowly, over a period of a few months, went blind. And so he did become sort of different and old and dependent at that point. But he fairly kind of, he wasn't the easiest of men, but he took this blow to, he was a man who read all the time, who wrote, who
He
was,
was really a scholar, right?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And he was, he spent a lot of time on his own and thinking, and he needed people all the time, and he couldn't amuse himself by reading, which is what he did
Yeah.
permanently. But for somebody who was like that, he took it incredibly well. He didn't turn into the kind of grumpy. In fact, he was actually, the weird thing was that he got nicer and more open. He
Wow.
wasn't nice before, but he was more amenable. He was more conversational. Um,
Hmm.
when he needed people, he had sort of, my mum looked after him, and that really had an impact on her life, massively. He used to, up to that point, he was still going to work because he was, I suppose, self-employed as a genealogist, and And he was still going into the office every day. And then, of course, he couldn't anymore, and obviously he couldn't drive. And
Yeah. So how was that for you? Because then your father was, incapacitated in a
yeah,
way, and your mother had to look after him. I think maybe it's good for the audience. We wonder, are your parents still alive? Lucy's father died at age 86, but it was early in your life, Lucy. And I've had my father until I was 54 and my mother until I was 66. So that's long. You can
yes.
really kind of, I feel there's a way that the relationship, of course, you start as a child and then you rebel and grow up and it can, but it can really, the relationship can really mature. And that's, of course, not the case for everyone. But
No, of course. I mean, it would be really interesting to hear from anybody who either has long lived or not long lived parents, or who hasn't had, parents in their lives,
at
perhaps, or
all.
only one parent. It's
Yeah.
different the experience for everybody. So it would
Yes.
certainly be.
How was it for you when your father, was blind and needed
Yes, yes.
care, and the relationship between your parents also changed.
Yes, absolutely. So he became dependent completely on my mother, and yes, he just wasn't obviously just that independent working person anymore. He
But how was it for you, Lucy?
yes, I I suppose I was a bit I
You had a young family at the
I
time,
had a
didn't
young
you?
family. In fact, what happened was that we were in Australia when he got ill. We came over to see him because we thought he was dying. He didn't die. I mean, we went back to Australia. I had a 2-year-old and I was pregnant with my
Yeah.
second son.
So you were very much into your own life
Yeah, exactly. But we
and
decided
far away.
exactly. And but Rob's father had died a couple of years before that, and we were in Australia then, and he could not. I mean, it was sudden. He had a heart attack, and we couldn't get back. He couldn't get back for the funeral, so it was like. So we decided at that point. I mean, it did have a massive impact on us because of this. We decided that we would come back to England. So we gave up everything in
Oh,
Australia, came back to England with no jobs, no, nothing, sort of nowhere to live. And in fact, we moved in with my parents at that stage. Um, I mean, I think, my mother wanted us to come back very much. I mean, she'd missed us while we'd been 8 years in Australia. But we all moved into this not very big at all flat. And my father was going blind and went blind. My mother was looking after him. I had a 2-year-old child. We didn't have any jobs or any money. It was really a very stressful time, probably worst of all for my mother, I think, who was, sort of trying to manage everybody.
have you ever asked her if this was worst for her or whether she actually loved having three generations under the roof in this difficult time of,
I have talked to her about it, and definitely there were difficulties, and certainly her change, her becoming a carer was
yeah.
I
We
think
are not all made as natural carers, are
no,
we?
no,
I am not.
no. I mean, I'm really not either. At least not. I mean, I think I'm a decent carer of children. My
Yeah.
not
No,
other.
I think you're a really good mother. Yes.
But I am not a very empathetic carer of adults. I think I'm not particularly good, even when we
No.
feel I'm not particularly nice or sympathetic. So,
Yeah.
but I think Mum was amazing. She did. I mean, she devoted her life. I mean, she did go on doing what she did. She was right. She was trying to finish off a book at the time that my father was. So there was that stress on her as well, and she had
Yeah.
other
And
jobs.
how long did you live there?
We were there for about 4 months, I think. And then we bought a house and moved out, and that was, I think, probably a relief to everybody. And then
Yeah.
almost to me, and then I had my second son, so we really would have needed to be out before then. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a difficult and a stressful time. But then my father lived for another 12 years with his blindness, and he clearly did age during that period. He couldn't take much exercise, and it was. But he got to 86,
Yeah.
he died in hospital because he had an infection in his leg, and the plan was he sort of got better and he was going to come home, but he had a heart attack in hospital and died suddenly. And in retrospect, I think it was honestly the best thing that could have happened, because
Hmm.
he would have been more depleted. Things would have been more difficult for him and for my mum. And although, my mum rang me from hospital and said that he had just died. And I remember saying, "No, he can't have. I'm going to see him tomorrow." I was just like, "This can't be happening."
Yeah. Sometimes we're still in our plan and
Yeah,
life changes, but we're not there yet. Huh?
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I couldn't process it. It was so unexpected.
Yeah.
We didn't expect it to happen. So, but your father had a longer sort of leaving process, didn't he?
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, he did. Yeah. So when I compare, when my father he was born in 1925. So when he was 70, that's 95. But also when he was 70, he was still at work. He was like a supervisory board member here and there until 72. Then it all stopped. And yeah, no, he was still active. He'd always worked for a firm. And then when he was pensioned at 60, he was first a bit at a loss. And then he became like a freelance, experienced businessman whose advice was appreciated here and there and everywhere. And he really loved that. And so, yeah, they were still quite vigorous. And then my father in 2007 felt like his arm was tingly and was strange. And they were actually on a trip with the whole family but us. We had gone to China with them in the summer. So when Christmas came, I was like, I was 50 something. I was like, I'm not spending all my holidays with my family. So I did not come along. But, and then in January, they checked it and they said, they discovered he had a brain tumor. And my parents were very, I mean, bless them. They were such insouciance, if that is an English word. They were kind of they thought, oh, he'll have the operation, they'll just scoop out the tumor and, then we'll go. They had a holiday planned. So they were like they were still in their plan where
Yeah.
something completely different happened. And of course, you don't really scoop out a malignant brain tumor and you can take parts of it away, but yeah, it's difficult and there's damage could be done. So the operation was actually a success, but then I think 1 or 2 nights later he had a hemorrhage and then he was half paralyzed.
Oh
So
gosh.
that was
How
really,
did you feel when you heard about the tumor? How did that?
yeah, don't I don't remember actually how I felt when I heard about it. I noticed, I think, the kind of, relentless and optimism of my parents. And
And did you
I
think
do know
they
that
were
we
wrong? I mean, did you feel that wasn't did you feel that they were overly optimistic?
I thought they were overly optimistic, absolutely. But I think it's like, raising children. You say things once, and then if they don't want to hear it, then you leave it be. But we made it a kind of habit to go to hospital, the four of us. So my sister and I and my parents. And of course, we had phones by then, but we weren't as adept. So I would frantically make notes and write down everything the doctor said. And it was so then we came home and then everybody had the different version of what had been said, but I had it down, because of a long training of doing interviews. I said, no, no, this is what they really know. So it taught me how, in a time of then when you're discombobulated, you can't really listen. You just pick
No.
out something or you hear something and then you kind of stop because you have to process that and then you don't hear what comes
And
next.
also you hear it in the context to some extent of what you want to hear, I
Yeah,
think.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So your mother heard that things were going to be fine.
Yeah, well, I don't truly remember what she heard and what we heard, but I just remember being the note taker and the secretary, and also sometimes the bringer of, not so good news because there had been not so good news. Yeah, yeah, no, my father really thought he would just, regain his strength and be able to do, and of course that wasn't. And I think it's very natural when you're in a situation or so close. I mean, as a child, you were already once removed, right? But for my parents to kind of let go of the active, life that they had had and let go of my father as the strong man and the organizer and
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, so for half a year he was actually in a bed in a living room, so they kind of converted the bungalow where they lived. And yeah,
And did
it
he
was
continue to think that he was going to get better? Did he still cling
sorry.
on to, did he continue to think that he was going to get better? Did he cling on to an overly
I
optimistic?
think for a while. I think for a while. But then when that didn't happen, and of course you get these strange things that all of a sudden you feel something heavy on your belly, on your tummy, and it is your arm, but you can't move your arm. So it was also, yeah, I think it dawned on them slowly that this was not going to be. I think my mother's birthday was March 7, and she turned 80. And I do remember that day, I think they realized, that it was going to the end, it was not going to get better. And also the tumor, started growing
Right.
again.
Right.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah, I used to joke with my father, I said, "You're a really ambitious man, and this tumor somehow, although wayward, is also made of you, so it's as ambitious as you are."
not
And
going
I
to give
mean, my
up.
family is very much given to, taking life head on with humor. Not processing the feelings, but really,
Just
yeah, cracking jokes. And so that was, yeah.
how interesting. Yes. And how are your brothers and sisters? I mean, your brothers and sister.
Yeah, yeah. So of course, my youngest brother, I realized I had a father until I was 54. He had a father until he was 45.
Yeah.
So that's a very different stage of life. But he had a family then and young children, and they came. But yeah, he lives in the US, so that was very different. It was mostly, yeah, my mother and the three of us, and we kind of, yeah, I went there often, and in the final weeks, Aled and I took turns sleeping on a little mattress by his bed, and he would wake up in the middle of the night and say, "Where's your mother? Where's your mother?" And shall we have a cup of coffee? And I would make coffee at 3:30, and then he wouldn't, have fallen asleep by the time I came back.
Yeah.
But those were very, very sweet nights, and he didn't speak about it much. It was just it is as it is, and they grit their teeth and kind of were very much together, but not in a yeah.
I think I think there are pros and cons, if you like, of having a period when you know the end is coming and you can spend time or talk or whatever, that you've got time to get used to the idea.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, something sudden is also can also be,
yeah,
a positive in some ways. You haven't got to, somebody hasn't got to go through the
yeah.
process.
Well, your father also went through his own process, of course, as is
Yeah.
your now, but yeah, we did a very Schuitmaker thing. At some point, I don't know how it arose, but we gave a party.
Oh,
We gave
wow.
a garden party for my father because we said, why when the funeral is, everybody will say nice things about you, but why not have people say nice things to you? So on a beautiful, beautiful, sunny, warm day, we had about, I don't know, 80 people.
Wow.
And all of us were there, and there's pictures of how we stand, around his bed. And my father was still, with a tie and everything in
Oh
his sick bed. But it was wonderful.
gosh,
It
what
was
a, what a
so wonderful. If
story.
if I have, if I could do it, I would do it too. Have like of a pre-funeral where
Yes,
you're still there.
that's an absolutely that's an amazing idea. But also that you had time enough that he was well enough to do that.
Yeah. It
Uh,
was
and
just maybe it was the last day before he started,
declining.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, that may have been why I mean, he may have held on for that day.
Yeah, he may have.
I think there are,
Yeah.
you do have kind of capabilities of, sort of
Yeah.
experience of
Yeah.
being able to hold on for a certain time before and push the
Yeah.
decline away. So I think that's an absolutely fantastic idea. And yeah, everybody should do it if they can. But I guess we're
Yeah.
not always, either
But
something.
some people felt awkward. It's kind of,
Yeah,
wow, you're giving a party. But then when they were there, it was just good. It was wonderful. And of course, we didn't foresee that there would be a line, going up to my father. But I remember him speaking to his sister and to someone from the office and to, the woman who had cleaned their house for 40 years or 30 years. Everybody was there. And my mother made a beautiful speech and looked beautiful. And yes, it was a great thing to do.
oh, wonderful. Yes, I can imagine, like the line going into a wedding, people all
Yeah,
want
it
to
was like
shake
that.
couples' hands and say congratulations. And this is
Yeah,
kind of like the other way round. But
yeah.
oh no, how absolutely wonderful. And then literally the next day he sort of started to fade.
Well, yeah, yeah. He
So I
started to
imagine that would have
fade.
been very tiring for him anyway, as
Yeah.
much as he would have
Yeah, it
loved.
was more like, of course, when the tumor is big, some things in the brain don't
Yeah.
give this. So, yeah, yeah, 29th of July, 2008.
Wow. Yes. Yes. And how
Yeah.
was your mother as your father was dying? How did she cope? Because she
Yeah,
had relied on him so much, hadn't she, in their
yeah.
relationship?
And there's also part of her, and maybe you have this too, that in my, perception kind of came out of the shade.
Yeah.
After he had died, she
Yes.
turned out to be really capable. They lived on the island of Curacao, and she decided to move back, and she kind of, yeah, my sister went over. I think my brother went over. I did not. But Bailey, I mean, she sold the house, she sold the car, she, did everything needed to kind of end their life there. And I remember taking her to the airport once. So she was 80, and I thought, wow, there you go, so vigorous. And yeah, and of course, I mean, she was like that. She just, took everything in stride.
Yeah. Yeah. She always enjoyed life, is my memory of your mother.
Yeah, yeah,
So I can completely imagine that.
yeah,
Yeah, so my mother was younger when my father died because she was 19 years younger than him. So she
yeah,
was in her late 60s and, very fit and well and healthy and busy and everything. So I, remember her at our age at 70. It was her. I always feel, and I don't know if I don't, I'm not sure I even want to ask her this really, but I always feel that the 70s was a great decade for her because she had nobody to look after.
hmm,
I mean, she was great as a grandmother and she did, but she wasn't, she was no longer looking after my father. Although I think if you have been a carer and the person you're caring for dies, you are left for a time with a lack of sense of purpose.
yeah,
There's a big
yeah.
part of life, and I do recognize that for a couple of years, I think she felt kind of this sort of this. I mean, what's the word? Kind of
Well, you have to also reconstruct your life. I wrote a book about widows, which has only come out in Dutch, and you have to kind of rebuild your life.
yeah. Yes, I think she, I mean, like your mother, she moved flat. I mean, they were in a house.
Yeah,
moved to a smaller, more central flat where one of her best friends was living. And but she really, she started going on. She'd always been someone who loved to travel, and but my father was a bit of a drag on her travel kind of things, because he found
Travel, her Wanderlust.
traveling
Yeah.
difficult. So she would do things on her own when he was alive, but once she was on her own. She just did lots of traveling. I think she went on holidays with your parents, and she did. But on and when she was 70, for her 70th sort of birthday year, she went on this sponsored walk in Syria. And there was a group of people she didn't know at all. It was for charity. She did it she raised money for Barnardo's, which she had previously been the chair of.
What is Bernardo's? Can you explain to
Sorry,
people who don't know what it is?
Barnardo's is a big children's charity in the UK. It was founded by a man called Dr. John Barnardo in the late 1800s. I can't put a date on it, but it's become a massive national
And your
charity.
mother has been in the
And my
board
mother was
for
in
a
it.
long time, right?
Yes,
Chairing the board, I presume.
yes, yes. So,
So
so
she did at 70, in her year of being 70, she went to
yes,
Syria and did this walk.
yes, and I'm pretty damn sure I couldn't do that. I mean, they were walking in the desert for miles every day, sleeping in tents, and I remember her say, I think she was the oldest person on the walk, and the youngest person was a girl of 17. So that was the stretch. But I mean, and she had to prepare for it and train for
Yeah.
it, and do a lot of walking beforehand. But she did it fine, as far as I know. I think it was a really impressive activity that she did. And then she went on traveling. She went on doing all sorts of things, writing books. And I mean, her last book launch was on her 90th birthday.
I
And
was there on
yes,
her 90th birthday. Oh, Lucy, if we can do that too.
I know. Yes, it was very, very impressive and wonderful. And that was a book about her great grandmother. And so they'd found diaries, and so she spent years actually deconstructing these,
Yeah.
scribbly leather bound volumes. And
Yeah.
then it was written up into a book and published, called The Diary of a Victorian young lady or something. I think it was awful. I can't remember. Her name was Ellen Palmer. But yes, so
Yeah.
she went on working and being very active, and until she was past 90. And then it must have been 3 or 4 years ago now, she got through COVID, and she was completely independent then. And then she fell in the street and broke her arm. And since then, she has had to have carers, because it never properly healed, because she was, I think, 93 or something when this happened. So she can't, it's her right arm, of course, because, when you fall, you put your right arm
But
down.
also it starts with a fall. My
Yes,
mother also it
exactly.
started with a fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she never really got up again. Even the family app that we have is called Get Mother Back on Her Feet. It's still like that. It's still called that, but that was then the impulse. How do we get her back on her feet? And
Yeah.
she never really got there. So I think, it's so important not to fall, but how can we? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think
Yeah.
my mother fell because actually one of her hips was weak. And
Oh
then
yeah.
2 to 3 years later, well, it was about a year, about 15 months ago now, she fell in her own flat and broke her hip. And so I mean, she did have a half hip replacement operation, and
Yeah, that too.
but that, has been
Yeah.
um, a,
But
a,
it's really remarkable how long we've both had a mother.
yeah,
My nephew and nieces have lost their mother when they were, in their teens, and the youngest not even that. And then we have had our mother, and it is, yeah, it's interesting to be an adult with with a mother,
and
and
possibly
then
adult with a mother as well.
What do you say? An, an old adult.
Out with a mother. I mean, yes, my mum is 97. She'll be 98 the couple of days after I'm 71.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yes, but I mean, tell me how it feels to lose a mother because I have not been through that experience yet.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think I've said this before. When my father died in 2008, there were two other men in my life who had died before him. And it felt to me like, like I was a tree in the woods and three big trees were felled. And I suddenly also had more space to grow.
Oh, how interesting.
That's how I felt when my father died. Yeah, it really, and of course, I mean, I was also sad. I was also yeah, you have to come to grips with this person who you've always talked to and relied on and whose opinion counted and who was just a wonderful person all round. My father was, not to have him anymore and see the grief of my mother, of course. That was maybe the hardest
Yeah,
to
yes.
see her, yeah, become one out of a very strong, twosome. And then losing my mother, I lost my mother, I think, gradually, because at some point my sister-in-law used to say, is it really, I mean, is she too lazy? Because my mother was a bit lazy. Is she too lazy to turn her brain on, or does she really not remember? But in the end, many things. My mother said, oh, I don't remember. Oh, I don't know. And so she kind of drifted off while still being in the body. And you said she loved life. And maybe I've already said this, but a few weeks before she died, I asked her, and she could not walk anymore. So in the morning there was a carer. She could stay at home with carers. And then she was wheeled to this strange kind of big chair that you kind of sit in that can lift you up and
Yeah.
things. And she would sit, in front of the window, and there would be a little robin coming, and that was, she said, that's your father's representative, is the little robin coming.
Oh,
And and then in the end, also, she could not read any longer because she could just not keep the thread of the story in her mind. But a few weeks before she died, I asked her, are you surprised in the morning when you open your eyes that you're still there? And she said, yeah, a little. And, I asked, would it be okay if one day you wouldn't? And she said, yeah. And then we were kind of silent for a while. And then she said, would still be a pity though.
oh, so she wasn't sort of like, I want to go now. I've done. She never kind of got to that stage.
I know, she never got to this stage. I mean, she was so incapacitated at the end. I mean, it's so, so difficult. Must be, I can't even, having seen her from so close, just imagine how it is and how you do that, within. But still, she hung on to life. And then one morning, she did not wake up.
Oh, it was a nice sort of, well,
I
from
don't know if it was nice. I have no
diagnosis.
idea.
No,
I
no.
did not go in to see her. I had been to visit her the day before. And the day before when I sat with her, she was trying to eat, a bit of a sandwich, which was even quite impossible. And then when the carer kind of wheeled her to her bedroom, she said to me, bye, Lila. She always called me Lila. Bye, Lila. Dag, Lila. And so that's my last memory of her. And so I did not go into the bedroom to see her, after
No.
death. I just wanted to keep the memory
Yes,
of
yes, I totally understand
Leila.
that. Yes.
Yeah, but it was still, I mean, unexpected. We had no idea what she would die from, and we don't know what she has died
Right.
of
That's,
because
that's
why would we want to know?
yes,
Also, we never did like the diagnosis for dementia or whatever because,
right.
I mean, it was just there and then there's nothing to do
No,
anyway. And
indeed.
otherwise, she was kind of fit.
Yeah. But tell me how you felt in when you knew she'd gone and then in the following weeks or months.
Yeah.
How did it? feel for you? And was it different to how you felt about your father going?
Well, I think if your second parent goes, then all of a sudden, and us being the eldest, all of a sudden we are kind of it, right?
Yeah, we've
There
risen to the top
really
of the,
is no one above you, and energetically, I kind of felt that. Oh, wow, now,
yeah,
now I'm the eldest here. And yeah, I think for my mother, I felt it was also a relief in a way, for her, for us, and it wasn't that I would, wish I'd wished her many more years because she was still in a way enjoying what she could. But it also, yeah, and of course, I mean, I grieve, and grief comes in so many strange ways, like, not being able to sleep, or my nails split, or, strange ways of grieving. And then, of course, also there's the task of what to do with the house, what to do with the clothes, what to do with
yeah,
and my brother and sister and I did that together. Of course, my American brother, yeah, isn't there for those things. And that was really intimate and sweet and sad.
yeah, yeah,
It's sad, but it's also because she was 93, it isn't a sadness of, it was so different when my sister-in-law died when she was in her 40s. That was
oh gosh,
so, so, so heartbreaking.
yeah.
Here, I did not have the heartbreak. I mean,
No, I mean,
especially my father would also have loved to live, 10 years more. But for my mother, it felt, you've really come to the end. It has been accomplished. You've done it. It's
yes, yes,
okay.
you've run.
Go on. And of course, I believe that you go on to further fields. So that's also a consolation.
Yeah, indeed. I remember you saying to me once, though, that when your mother died, that you felt with your relationship with your mother was like there was a almost a sort of a string, a cord between you. And when she died, you felt that the cord was just sort of you were left dangling
I
at the
had
end
that,
of the cord.
not
I
on,
remember you saying that, and it
yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah. I had that on my birthday, not on my
oh,
first birthday without her, because then, I mean, she had just gone. But on my second birthday, it was like, wow, there is like this cord between a mother and a child. And now I'm just the only one holding the end of that. There is no one on the other side. So should I even celebrate my birthday? Because, the birth was done through her.
yeah,
And now that she isn't there, then yeah, so that felt really, really different.
yes. And was that difficult? Was that a kind of a time of a particular kind of grief,
Well,
or simply
yeah, it's kind of, I live a really blessed life, I feel, and I have the grief that many people have, and this is grieving over aged parents is just part of life. So,
yes, and lucky
yeah,
to
of
be able
course
to do
there's a
it.
sadness, but not the heartbreak. I mean, I wasn't heartbroken. My sister, who was more of had a deep friendship with my mother, and my mother was also really part of her family. Yeah, she grieved much more than I did because she really lost a friend, and I lost an old mother who wasn't completely there anymore and
Yeah,
hadn't been for years.
but it was different. It was a different feeling to when your father died.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, of course, my father was a bit younger and he still like had so many plans and yeah, he was so curious about how the world, was evolving and things happening. And uh, my mother was kind of lively, but my father was like actively curious.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I think I would have loved for him to have lived longer, but not for my mother. For my mother, it was like
no,
the day has come.
yeah, yeah,
Day has
absolutely.
come. You've already prolonged it, like been able to. Yeah, like your mother does.
Yes, I mean, I think, when you are in physical and mental decline, then it feels like there's a pathway that has to be followed. It's not like a sudden shock or that
No,
should have happened now. It's sort of leading to the right.
but the strange thing is, Lucy, it's still sudden.
Yes, of course. Yes,
It's still with
absolutely.
your father, it was sudden.
Yeah.
With my father, my mother had never left his bed. She was always there. And then on that day, she decided to go for a coffee with friends. And the
Oh,
carers called her and said, "We think this is now really his final hour." And, she'd never done that. So it is still sudden. And with my mother dying in the night, I mean, even the day before when I was there, I could not have thought that would
no,
happen.
no. And I mean, whatever, even if you're sitting by the bedside, it is
Yeah.
still one moment that they are in the
Yeah.
world and one moment when they've gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I mean, I've never experienced that with anyone, but I think that must be shocking.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, no,
I think it must be shocking. So I can only wonder, how we will do this. I mean, it's not that far away.
no, no, it's not. It's not.
You're already older than your father. No, you're not older
No,
than your
no, I'm
father.
not. No,
No, no, no, no, no. You're not. You're
no.
not older than your father. No, neither am I. So, yeah.
No, we haven't got there yet. But I mean, I know, I mean, Rob, my first husband, his father died at the age of 54. And I know that Rob always felt maybe that's going to happen to me. And when he passed at
Hmm.
the age of 54 and went on, it was kind of like, oh, that it's sort of like you do feel in a way that maybe
Yeah.
there's a pattern you're going to follow
Yeah.
in the footsteps. And luckily it hasn't happened to him at all. He's
Yeah.
very much alive and kicking.
Good.
So
Good. But I can really understand. Like, there's this age that you go like, oh my, I'm gonna, yeah, this is kind of the sword of Damocles. What do you say? It's kind of
yes, yes,
gonna
it's
cut off my lifeline too.
waiting for us, and the time gets,
Yeah.
as we obviously know, gets shorter and shorter. And
Yeah.
I think I felt when I was 50 that, at best I had reached halfway, and that time was now going to, there was going to be less time ahead of me than there was behind me. And I doubt that I'll reach the age of 100, but that somehow seemed like, a
Yeah.
sensible
No, no,
point.
no. Then you're definitely and coming into the autumn already.
Yes, yes, exactly,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
sweet to talk about our parents. I
yeah,
hope that people who listen have good memories of their parents if they have passed, if they've died, or are in active relationship. Not everybody is, of course, in active relationship with their
no,
parents, but it's
no, and not everybody gets on with their parents,
yeah.
or it's a very different
Yeah.
experience for very many people. But and many people are their parents' carers towards the end, and
Yeah.
I
As are you in a way. I mean, there's the active caring, but there's also the admin and the
yes, yes,
the contact with the carers. I mean, there's lots that I'm also curious as a person without children, that usually children take on as tasks.
yes. Well, I mean, my mum keeps apologizing to me for all the trouble she's being and the work
Oh,
causing, and sort of the time I have to spend doing things. And I keep saying to her, it's not, I don't feel it like that. It's not a trouble, it's a pleasure. You looked after me for far longer
yeah,
than I'm looking after you. And also I'm lucky in that as I think you were, that my brothers and I are absolutely doing this together. And I said to her, think of it as a good family kind of function
project.
performing. Yes, because I see and I talk to my brothers more in the last 3 years probably than I did for we live quite separate lives, quite different sorts of lives. And whereas I'm incredibly fond of them, we've never spent loads of time together, and as adults, and we've very much been brought together by my mum's sort of
Yeah,
pendant years, as it were,
yeah,
and even more so. I mean, recently in the last couple of weeks we had to face the possibility that she might need to go into a care home, and all of us did different things to see, what needed to happen. And found, it's just it's complicated. And
Yeah.
anyway, I mean, in the end, it has transpired
But
that
it's really beautiful and a blessing if you can do it together and each
yeah,
takes, the kind of part, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that because it comes natural and easy and that it fits. Now for me too, I have very fond memories of us as a family in those times.
yes,
And
yes,
of course, what does happen when your second parent dies, then, that kind of hold the kind of hat that you all fall under and that kind of rings you together, it falls away. So you have to find your own ways of, after the house has been, you know,
yes.
yeah,
Indeed.
the
I mean,
things have been taken care of, then when will you see each other? You have
yes,
to create moments and yeah.
yes, yes. I mean, my mother has always been very much the matriarch of the family,
Yeah.
a holder together of, social
Yeah.
occasions.
The
And
maypole that you dance around, right?
yeah,
And then you all come. Yeah. She
exactly.
publishes another book. There you all are.
Yes,
And yeah,
yes, indeed. Or just, the Christmas parties every year and things
yeah,
like that. And yeah, I do wonder how it will feel and how it will be and how we
yeah,
will kind of, I don't want us to fall apart after that. I don't think we will. I mean, I actually think that we've had these, several years of kind of coming together, and I think it will, like stand us in good stead, and hopefully we'll, I mean, I do.
May it be so, Lucy. May it be so.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm up to standing in for her as the next eldest female in the family. But
No, no, but I mean, you have a different standing, of course, than your mother. That
yeah,
is really, nobody can fill that role. That
no,
is a unique role. Yeah.
yes, yes, and she,
Well, what a topic
yes,
to speak about. It is
indeed, it
sweet,
has,
sweet
yes,
memories mostly,
yes, yes, it has been.
even with the grief and but it's yeah.
Well, it comes to most people, and it's yeah, it's good to talk about it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so bless you with your mother. Bless your mother for, being in this final time, weeks, months,
Yeah,
years, who knows.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll talk again next week,
Yes.
and
Talk again next week.
bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.